Welcome, everyone, to today's session of Tech Tuesday. My name is Dr. Haifa Maamar. I'm the Director of Emerging Technologies here at Full Sail University. And today we're streaming live from Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So today's session is about some of the topics that I really love. My PhD was about that. And it's about Unity, mixed reality, and the Metaverse. And I have the pleasure to have with me today John A. Cunningham. He is the head of Unity Government and Aerospace and president of the VR/AR Association chapter here in Central Florida. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Haifa, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So before we talk about these exciting topics, what about we start by introducing yourself to the audience and tell us more about your background and how you joined Unity and how you ended up being in this field.
Yeah, sure. So I started my career off originally as an Army officer many years ago. And after I did my Army service, I got out and got into the high-tech industry and spent about 25 years working for companies like HP and Motorola and Aruba Networks, always in opening up new markets and introducing new technologies into new markets. And then about 10 years ago, I went to work for Carnegie Mellon University, and that was, and I was responsible for some of the educational curriculum and business for Carnegie Mellon. And that was where I first got introduced to the use of real-time 3D technologies, such as Unity, in using it actually in curriculum, right? For example, teaching people how to fix air conditioners and do repairs on robots and things like that.
So training them on doing these things through the use of virtual reality.
Exactly. And then also we had the Robotics Academy at Carnegie Mellon University. And Dr. Robin Shoup there had created an entire curriculum to, you know these robot competitions where the students are building robots. Right? Well, how about places where students don't have robots? Or how do you because at the end of this, that it's about teaching computational thinking. It's about teaching students how to use computer science and mechanical engineering. So they came up with a complete virtual curriculum. So you had virtual robots, and you had to write the code and make the robots compete and challenge and all that stuff. And I was thinking to myself then how powerful this would be when it makes its way into the commercial industry. So I got into Orlando with a company called Disti, a company that's right here in Orlando that focuses on the simulation and training industry. And most of their solutions for the military were built using Unity. And that created a relationship with Unity. And one day they called me up and said, we really want to focus on industries outside of the gaming industry. We believe that the time is right for manufacturing companies and healthcare companies to use this real-time 3D technology, and they asked me to come on board and lead the government aerospace business. So that's how I got into this, a long way.
It's interesting, and I'm glad you talked about the gaming industry, because Unity and Unreal are the gaming engine, the most popular gaming engine to build games. So like all AAA gaming studios either use Unity or Unreal or have their custom engines. So now, like, we met a couple of years ago, and then I know when you said that you're the head of government and the government solutions, like for aerospace, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Unity is interested in something like this. How is Unity doing this? Like shifting from the gaming, going towards aerospace and government solutions.
Yeah, and it's a very large transformation. I mean, across all industries, we're seeing the adoption of real-time 3D technologies for everything from training to large-scale simulation to integrating artificial intelligence with robotic systems and simulating them in 3D to real estate market, healthcare,
entertainment,
everything,
you
name it.
Right now. Yeah, perfect. So before we talk about mixed reality or the digital twin and the metaverse, what about we start first by understanding some of the concepts we'll be talking about today. And the two most important for me are like kind of the base of everything is augmented reality versus virtual reality. So can you explain these two concepts and give examples for our audience so that they can understand how these are used?
Yeah, I know, because this must be very difficult for folks that are always hearing these terms, AR, VR, XR.
Exactly.
What does it all mean? So
it's interesting. I did my PhD on augmented reality, and then like to explain that to my parents, I'm like, okay, let me explain like this differently. So yeah.
Well, let's start with augmented reality. So augmented reality is really just using digital technology to augment the real world.
Okay.
And I think the simplest example of that is Pokemon Go.
Okay.
Right? You hold your phone up, you've got your digital characters that pop up in the real world.
Exactly.
And also in pilot helmets, a lot of people have seen Top Gun Maverick,
yes.
right? Having the data being projected into the headset,
yep.
That's augmented reality.
Yeah.
And that can be extended across many different devices. Virtual reality is where you're actually immersed into a digital environment. So, the Oculus Quest or
so you
VR
have to
headset.
Wear a headset and go into
And you're projecting, that's almost a completely digital environment, a digital world. And that's something that's becoming very popular in gaming where players can go into the virtual world and compete against other players. But it's also becoming very, very big in training and simulation.
Exactly.
And a lot of the flight simulators that, you used to have this very big, expensive full motion flight simulator. You can do a lot of that training in a virtual reality headset at a 100th of the cost. So virtual reality is just to think about it as, you're in a virtual environment. And then mixed reality is, X, or sometimes it's referred to as XR. It's combining the two.
Yeah,
and
extended reality. XR is
yes.
for extended reality. It's combining both of them. It's interesting that you say that flight simulators right now are more using virtual reality, but we know that we have a company here in Orlando, Red 6, where they're using augmented reality for flight simulators as well. So we are seeing now the growth of augmented reality in trainings as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, it's like any technology, it's a tool, and you use the best tool for the use case at the time. But at the end of at the end of that chain, or maybe at the beginning of the chain, is the content. The content that needs to be created needs to be 3D content, right?
Perfect.
And that's where Unity comes in, where we want to be the platform, the tool set that people use to create those experiences.
So let's talk about that.
Yes.
So, and you correct me here, I think Unity started talking about the digital twin, I would say, like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I started now that Unity, especially here in Orlando, so we're hearing more about their news, about everything that they're doing, the amazing job they're doing here in Orlando. But then we started hearing more about the digital twin and how is that affecting our life and everything here in Orlando. So before we talk about what does that mean for the city of Orlando, what about we explain to our audience what the digital twin is?
Sure.
And how is that different from a simulation? Because those are two completely different concepts.
Absolutely. So think about a digital twin as a virtual replica of any real object. It can be a power plant, it can be my phone, it can be a city. So what you're doing is you're creating a digital replica of an actual object. But what makes it a digital twin is when you apply real world data to it.
Okay.
Now, digital twins have been around for 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
It's just that they've been in the two-dimensional format, where they're pulling, for example, if you look at race cars, they pull data off the race cars, all the different sensor data, and they look at it in their computer screens, and they're making, so they actually have a digital replica of the race car. It just doesn't look like the race car, right?
Okay.
So what real-time 3D technology has enabled us to do is to create visual replicas of the physical objects with all of that data running in real time, okay? And so that's what a digital twin is. Now, a simulation is taking that data and then applying some sort of what-if scenario to it. Like, what happens if I put 10,000 cars on the highway instead of 5,000 cars? Or what if I turn the power up in my engine? What is that going to do to the rest of the car? So that's a simulation. So a digital twin can be used to simulate.
Exactly. Thank you.
Right?
Okay.
But a simulation is just one use case of a digital twin. And this is really transforming, or it's giving organizations the ability to completely transform the way they design products, build products, support products, market products.
Prototype even.
Prototyping products, yeah.
So how has the digital twin impacted industries like healthcare, real estate, or manufacturing? If we can give examples, specific examples. For manufacturing, we can use the cars, for example.
Sure.
But that will help our audience understand again, the difference between digital twin and simulation.
Sure. So let's think about a manufacturing line. Everyone's seen manufacturing lines, how you build a product, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times there's robots in there, and the robots have to do the picking up and the welding. What happens when you run a new part through there? You want to build a new model of a car. You have to reconfigure your whole manufacturing line, and you have to reprogram the robots. So one use of a digital twin is to have a complete replica of your entire manufacturing plant running digitally, and then doing simulation and reconfiguring your manufacturing line in the virtual twin. And then at some point, you can push that software down to the actual manufacturing line and reconfigure it. What manufacturing companies have to do today, they have to shut entire manufacturing lines down for days, weeks, or even months while they reconfigure them. Imagine being able to do that completely in the virtual world, in a digital twin, and then pushing it down onto a manufacturing line. That's one example.
Okay.
Real estate. We're starting to see a lot of adoption of digital twins in the real estate industry to replicate very expensive buildings, property complexes, the operations side of it. So if I have to manage an office building, having all of that information about how that building is functioning in a digital twin lets me run parameters and look at different aspects of how can I optimize the use of that particular building. Healthcare, we're starting to get into, the digital twin of the human is a very aspirational goal.
Yes.
A lot of companies are working on that. I think that's a little bit down the line a little bit. But I think in power production, in airports, in manufacturing, we're starting to see broad scale adoption of digital twins.
Interesting. And then actually, I know also from as you were talking about real estate and building, like I know, for example, the digital twin also will help first responders also understand if, for example, there is some kind of like a fire, for example, in a building or something, like how are they going to be able to help people or victims exit.
Oh yeah, and that goes back into
like handling all these like emergency.
Sure, and you think about having that information available on a phone device where a firefighter could have a tablet or some kind of projection device in their helmet, which would actually show them the best way to go through a building, right? So there's endless amount of use cases for this.
Wow. So on April 14th, 2022, the OEP, which is the Orlando Economic Partnership, announced it is collaborating with Unity to create a first-of-its-kind, multi-use, immersive, real-time 3D digital twin for 800 square miles of the Orlando region.
Yep.
Well, that's huge. And Unity is actually has been contracted to do this, right?
Right.
And then, so can you tell us more about this project and tell our audience how is Unity handling this?
Okay, so let's start with because digital,
what that means.
Yeah,
yes.
so digital twins is a very broad term, right? What the Orlando Economic Partnership, what their primary role is as an economic development organization is to attract new businesses to move to Orlando. And the way they do that today is if a company's looking at open up a new plant or a new office location, they look at lots of different locations, they gather lots of different data, and then typically they send a team of senior executives to go to different cities to actually see the locations. And they typically spend a day in each location. So they might go to Orlando, Houston, Austin, New York as an example.
Okay.
Today, the way the Orlando Economic Partnership does it is they provide them about 75 slide presentation of all the different data sets. They create very custom presentations for the company that's coming to look at Orlando.
Okay.
And then they drive around. Now, if you go from the west side of Central Florida all the way down to the Cape Canaveral, and then back up to Lake Nona and Osceola County, that's a lot of area to look at. And so what OEP was looking to do was to say, okay, first of all, we're the experience center of the world. We're the recognized hub of modeling and simulation in the theme park industry. Is there technology that we have right here that we can use to provide a different kind of experience?
That's smart.
Yeah. So the idea was, could they create a virtual tour for companies looking to relocate to Orlando? And that was the original idea. And then we collaborated with the OEP on what their vision was. and we looked at different technologies such as AR, VR, XR, and we decided to use a combination of LED wall technology and holographic projection devices.
Okay.
So it is an immersive experience, but it is not going to be one that you put goggles on.
I was going to ask if you're going to be doing any of that.
And it's going to be really one of the first of its kind. It's going to be very, very unique in how the content is presented.
So we still are asking the investors to come here to Orlando so that they can have that experience.
Correct. They're still going to come here. The difference is that they'll have a much more engaging presentation with the digital twin.
Instead of driving around, okay.
And also they'll have real-time data available. So if a question comes up about something, the presenter, the court can organize and drill right into that. Future versions of the digital twin will have the ability to be accessed remotely, either by desktop or VR, AR. But OEP really wanted to showcase, first of all, their new marketing center that they're opening up, and to have something that was absolutely a wow. You know, when people come to Orlando, they expect to have an amazing experience. And so we're going to start with that.
That's interesting because, as you said, Orlando is known for the entertainment from Disney and all the parks that we have here, but also we are the hub of simulation, augmented reality, virtual reality, and the modeling in general. So combining all these industries together to create an experience like this is amazing. So how does this help investors and companies as they're going through this digital twin, and how does this impact Orlando in the future?
Yeah, so if we look at investors as being the companies that are looking to come to Orlando, it helps them by giving them a much richer experience and access to real-time data. So hopefully it'll shorten their decision cycle, but it also showcases that Orlando is a technology hub and that we do have the resources and capabilities right here. And that's very important, especially if they're looking to be in a location where there's a lot of high-tech talent. Okay, so that's one side of the investor. For the internal investors, which are the members of the Orlando Economic Partnership, this really becomes a showcase. It's a centerpiece to showcase our capabilities here.
I love that you're talking about that because, yes, this creates, we're always, I think, thinking about Orlando as entertainment only. And sometimes when I talk about no, we have all these different industries here, even the universities, and we're teaching all these different programs and emerging technologies here. People don't have that, how to say it, they cannot connect easily to that point. So now it helps us all showcase what we can do and what are the talent we have, all these different projects that we work on and so on.
Absolutely. And the goal of this digital twin, ultimately, once we build out some more functionality, is that this will be a collaboration platform, so that any organization that's in the Orlando area can access the digital twin, can put their data into it. And so this is now a living replica of the Central Florida region that will constantly be updated. So it's pretty exciting project. And I believe that the Orlando Economic Partnership will be the first economic development organization with a presence in the Metaverse.
Talking about the Metaverse. You're reading my mind. So actually on May 11th, Orlando announced it emerges as the center of the Metaverse, or what we call the Meta Center. So before talking about the Meta Center and how are we going to be a city in the Metaverse, let's first explain the concept of Metaverse that everyone is using nowadays, and I don't know if people understand what it is.
Okay, so the easiest way to think about the Metaverse is think about the web in 3D. So think about Web 3D.
Yes.
So today we're on the internet, we can have experiences, we can shop, we can travel places, but it's kind of through a flat screen.
Correct.
It can be 3D data, but in a two-dimensional surface.
Yes, through your phone, through your screen, through anything.
Exactly. Think about if now you bring that into the 3D environment and you can bring that information with you. So we call that being persistent. And so Metaverse is a very big concept. And it's going to take many years to build this out and for the industry to all agree on definitions. But I think the simplest way to think about it is the 3D internet. And I'll give you an example. If you want to buy a new product, you want to buy a new phone, right? For example, you can go onto a website and you can actually see the phone in 3D. You can spin it around. You can look at it. You might be able to even access the applications virtually and have a real interactive experience with that product. through your VR device or even on your desktop or through some other 3D immersive technology. Or you could go into a shopping mall, a virtual shopping mall.
Exactly.
With different types of stores, and you can virtually go to the different stores and try the different products. You can buy them and then have them delivered to your real world. Buy them
through the metaverse.
Through the metaverse and have them delivered to your real world house. Digital twins become part of the metaverse because you can take a digital twin of something and bring it into the metaverse for other people to interact and engage with it. So yeah, it's
I know that right now also in real estate we're seeing houses being sold on the metaverse as well.
Well, I think what we're seeing in the metaverse with houses is, okay, I have a dream home that I want to build. I can create that dream home in the metaverse and have other people participate in that and contribute to it and design it. Mm-hmm. And then potentially export that model out into the real world and have it built. And then also there is real estate in the metaverse being sold. Mm-hmm. And one of the simplest examples is virtual shopping malls where folks are buying up shops in a meta mall.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And then they're opening their shops there and showcasing their products.
Yep.
In them. Oh, interesting.
Because you think about a lot of times people go to shopping malls. They're going to look at a number of different things, but they kind of want you kind of collect them in a certain area. So I might go to one type of watch shop and then another watch shop and then compare them. You can do the same thing in the metaverse rather than just going to individual online stores.
I love this. So, as we already said, Orlando is the hub of simulation training, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, gaming, all of that. So now, being the meta center, mm-hmm. it kind of makes sense. Like we have already all this technology that exists here. So us announcing ourselves as being the meta center makes sense. But then people always, when we're talking about metaverse or Orlando or like, especially metaverse, I had people talk to me, it's like, yeah, the metaverse existed through gaming anyway. But that's not the case. Like, it's not the only use case. It's not limited. It's not limited to that. So tell me more. I know we explained kind of like use cases of the metaverse or what that metaverse means, but what are some of the technologies that can be used in the metaverse?
Well, really, at the fundamental, so if there's a couple of assumptions about the metaverse. One of those is that it's real time. Mm-hmm. Right, that the metaverse, real time means that you're engaging, you're interacting with content. A movie that's streaming is not real time, right?
Yes.
But interacting with a video game, playing the game, that's real time. It's happening. So one of the underlying assumptions of the metaverse is that it's going to be real time. Another one is that it's going to be persistent. It's going to always be available. So I think So the technologies that go into that, the building blocks of the metaverse are predominantly going to be around game engine technology. I think that's a given assumption that the game engine technologies are mature. That's where this 3D content is being developed. But there's lots and lots of supporting technologies. Almost all the technologies that are today involved in the internet, plus you're adding AI and blockchain and other types of technologies. So it's definitely going to be an interesting period, I think, over the next 10 to 15 years to see how all of this plays out. But I think it just creates massive opportunities for companies that are already. I mean, we talk about Orlando as the meta center. This isn't anything new. This has been going on for 20 years here. It just hasn't been called. It hasn't been lumped under one brand.
I agree.
So I really applaud the Orlando Economic Partnership and David Adelson for kind of having that vision to say, wait a minute, we've already got all of this here. Let's put our own brand on it. So if you think about the Meta Center, you're really talking about the Central Florida region, including parts of South Florida where blockchain and crypto, mm-hmm. all of these technologies are already here. So we're like, how do we put all of this on the map? Well, you gotta plant a stake in the ground.
I love that.
Yep.
So making Orlando the Meta Center is a huge project, as you said. That's going to take about 10 to 15 years to come to fruition. But then we are producing talent. So we're teaching
yep.
kind of like some of the programs in emerging technologies. Before I talking about the skills that you guys are looking for, I want to talk first about job opportunities that are going to exist or that would exist here in Orlando. I'm not going to talk about South Florida and blockchain, and I know that Miami now, they're known for the blockchain. We are known for the Meta Center. So I want us to just focus on Orlando right now, or the Central Florida right now, and talk about job opportunities here.
Okay, so already a lot of the skills that are needed in the gaming and the theme park and the simulation industry are in huge demand. Unity developers, technical artists, project managers, designers, quality assurance testers. And then there's going to be these new jobs that we don't really know yet in the next 5 years. I mean, who thought there would be a chief metaverse officer job? And there's people. Disney announced that they have a chief metaverse officer.
That's amazing.
So I think that companies are going to be looking for individuals with those kind of skills, and put them to work. So it's hard to say specifically, but I think we're already.
So, but like then you guys are looking at, I would think, people, as you said, in gaming, if they're going to be, so Unity, for example, we're probably going to be looking for developers. You're going to be looking for designers. Artificial intelligence is going to be a big thing, I guess. So like engineers and AI, machine learning and so on, that will be another thing that.
All of the above.
And the modeling, amazing.
And then full stack developers. I mean, we can't.
Full stack developers,
we can't.
Of course,
we can't
the Web3G.
Yeah.
Yeah, Web3. So let's now talk about the VR/AR Association.
Okay.
You are the president of the VR/AR Association. And I want to know, how did you think about starting a chapter of the VR/AR Association? And how is the VR or like the VR/AR chapter connected to this whole picture?
Sure. So about 5 years ago, when I was at my last company, we were looking at how we were going to get involved in virtual and augmented reality. We already created training solutions and simulations using Unity. And we were looking at to learn more about VR and AR. So we started going to conferences around the United States. And what I quickly realized is the people that really seemed to understand what this technology was were all members of the VR/AR. And I quickly realized that here in Central Florida, we already had a lot of the companies that were doing this kind of work, but because of the nature of the defense industry and just the way the theme park industry works, a lot of these organizations weren't collaborating. So I had a thought: why don't we open up a chapter in Orlando? Because they didn't have one. There was one in Miami, but there wasn't one in Orlando. So I just went around the community and asked a few folks. I talked to you guys. I talked to Lewis here at Full Sail. I talked to UCF. I spoke with the Army, Navy, Air Force. Every single person said, "Wonderful idea. How can we help?" And so we did. We stood up a chapter a little over 3 years ago.
Okay.
And within 2 years, we became the largest chapter globally in the VR/AR Association. So today we are the largest, probably most active chapter, but it's because of all of what's already here in the community and people really wanting to collaborate. The other goal of setting up a chapter here was to give the organizations that are already here access to other markets. Right. So how can we collaborate together and get exposure into markets that traditionally would not look at Orlando? And I think we've been very successful. I know I've spoken with a lot of our members that have said, "Hey, I got new business contacts. We got new projects," and likewise, it's also given companies outside of Orlando more exposure into Orlando and moving their operations here.
Yeah, I remember, like for me, for example, when I started coming to the meetings, it helped me connect to so many different companies that exist here in Orlando, but also that are from outside Florida sometimes. Like they're just coming to check, and they hear about the VR/AR Association. I remember in the last board meeting we had, there was a company that like was just checking out what Orlando has, and they were interested in maybe coming to Orlando. So it was a way for them to understand the ecosystem that exists here in Orlando. So I would say, yes, you are creating that connection there where like companies can now collaborate and connect with each other and find a way how they can work on projects together.
Yeah, and the association started in Palo Alto, California, in Silicon Valley many years ago with the goal of educating people of what the technology was. I think we're kind of beyond that now. Yeah. This is now more into moving towards more of the metaverse. But so we're not a technical organization. It really is a marketing and collaboration and networking organization. But you said it's creating those ecosystems. And so you're going to start seeing more of the metaverse theme in the chapter. And in fact, we have our global summit in Miami Beach in December. And we actually have our next chapter meeting August 1st in the metaverse.
Interesting.
Yes, August 1st, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, or we can put the link up on this for our next chapter meeting.
Yes.
For people that don't know what the metaverse is and wants to get involved, this is going to be an actual meeting in the metaverse. So
I love that. So I know it's more for companies to connect and to collaborate together, but also it's a great opportunity for our students as well.
Absolutely.
So I want our students, or not necessarily Full Sail students, but other students as well, to understand what are the advantages that they have of being part or looking at what the VRAR Association is having, and what they can get out of it.
Sure. So I think for students getting involved in the association events, it gives them exposure to companies that are doing work in this space and to create personal connections. But also it's to understand where the technology is going. I mean, one of the things that you want to always do is understand technology trends so that you can be relevant or be ahead of it. And we have conferences, we have papers that we produce. So there's lots of also good information that comes out of the association that would be valuable to students.
I love that. So students, if you're listening today, please check out the VRAR Association, the Orlando, Central Florida chapter.
Yep. And also Full Sail and UCF are both members.
We have.
And so all of the students are automatically members of the VRAR Association. So they can participate in any of the events as a member.
That's amazing. And then I guess then the event that you're going to have in Miami, can they volunteer for that?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I'm sure we could do that.
Because that will help them also create like some network there.
One of the other things that we did last year at ITSEC, which is the big modeling and simulation event, we had a VRAR Association table, and students could come in and demonstrate the projects that they were working on. So that's something we want to continue to do.
Okay. So how is the VRAR Association connected to the whole idea of the Meta Center here?
So the VRAR Association is really, our role in the Meta Center is to help amplify the message.
Okay.
And to help run events. Like our next chapter meeting is sponsored by the Orlando Economic Partnership, and the whole topic is going to be the Meta Center. So it really is it's a working hand in hand with the OEP as an organization here to promote that.
I love that. So let's go back to your job or your current role at Unity and everything that you've been doing with the government solutions and aerospace. What are some of the projects that, not necessarily that you're working on right now, but like that are exciting projects that you worked on, and then where you see like they kind of impacted you or impacted
Sure.
Sure.
Well, look, the Orlando Digital Twin Project is one of my recent favorites.
Yes.
Just because it's going to have such a big impact, and it's going to really educate a lot of people to what's possible with the technology while serving a very useful purpose for their OEP's job. The other thing I'm seeing is the use of real-time 3D technology to train, to give access to education to people that wouldn't have access to that education in a traditional sense.
Okay.
So we're working with a company here in Orlando that's creating a program to help incarcerated individuals that are being released develop new skills using virtual reality.
Okay.
And so many of the folks that are being released don't have high school educations, so they wouldn't qualify for traditional education programs. But through the use of virtual reality technology, we can give them experiential learning.
I love this.
Yes, and so there'll be some big announcements coming out about that, in the next few months. But I'm starting to see, because we're Unity and so many people are using Unity, we get the privilege of being able to get involved in so many different projects, and I'm just amazed at all of the great work that the ecosystem is doing and the stuff that they're creating. It's pretty phenomenal.
I love this. And it's interesting that you guys are going more now towards education. And at Full Sail also we've been looking at, we've been doing online education for some time, but then looking at extended reality, education using extended reality. So ways for me, I think it's not only the training aspect of it, but like the engagement aspect of it, looking at how students can be part of the same section together and then work together, create that team work, and then learn at the same time and stay engaged to the course at the same time.
Oh, it's the use of XR technology it's just completely transforming the way we collaborate. If someone has I've been to classes now in VR and it's just you can be there for time goes by so quickly.
Yes.
Because you're engaged and you're really collaborating. It's not like you're just watching a course on the screen. There's going to be. I think education is going to be completely transformed over the next few years.
I love this. So I want to know if I know probably we have some questions online. I want to make sure that I give them the time to do that. Yes?
Okay.
Yes, we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I figured I'm gonna stop on the questions so I can give you guys the opportunity to ask your questions.
A question from kind of a two-part question or combined question from Cicero and Alicia, one on YouTube, one on LinkedIn, for clarity about the digital twin. First question is Uber Technologies' ability to track the car an example of the digital twin? And also, I think in the same vein here, how is the digital twin different or similar to Google Earth?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat that question. So is Uber technology, is Uber technology an example of the digital twin?
I don't think tracking the vehicle is a digital twin. So I don't think that would qualify as a digital twin, although it's very cool technology.
Maybe having like the digital twin of the city and then collecting the data of where the car is going can be way.
Exactly. If you took all of the cars that are on the roads and you brought them into a geographical representation of the city, and then you could apply other data, that starts getting to what a digital twin is.
And then the second part of the question was,
how is the digital twin different or similar to Google Earth?
How is the digital twin similar or different to Google Earth?
No, so a lot of organizations have been calling maps digital twins, like 3D maps. They've been referring to those as digital twins because they're a digital replica of a portion of the Earth's surface. So yes, in a sense they are, but they're not interactive live digital twins that that you would think of in the industrial segment.
Okay.
So I think that's a half and half yes, half no. But now, when you take the Google Earth data and you merge it with other forms of data, and potentially you have a factory that you're running and you use Google Earth to put your factory onto the map, and you're looking at the weather around it, then you're now getting into...
That's the digital twin.
Now you're getting into more of what we call a digital twin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next question.
The next question is from Amoy on LinkedIn, and they ask, what future laws do you see being enacted to protect tech platforms from user exploitation and vice versa?
Okay, I need to... So this is a question from LinkedIn.
What future laws do we see potentially being enacted in Metaverse or digital twin?
Okay, what future laws we see being enacted to apply to the Metaverse? Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's a very good question.
It's a very good question, but it's also not very easy to answer because we're in a whole new world with the Metaverse.
It is, and I don't think people are really thinking about legal stuff.
Well, no. Right now, there's a rush to build it. There's a rush to experience it, and then we're already starting to see cases like, well, if I build this model, who actually owns it? So we're using a lot of traditional laws that we use for the internet and software and applying those in the Metaverse. But I believe the Metaverse is going to create a whole new situations that we're not even really thinking about that are going to require new laws. So
if we're building this model in the Metaverse, and then you're saying who's going to own it, like, can we have the NFT? Like, can we have it as an NFT so that will make it proprietary to that
to
person.
Ours, yeah. I mean, that's the whole. I think that's the whole goal of NFTs, right? Is that's your
That's
intellectual
yours.
property.
This is how, exactly.
And you can sell it, using blockchain. I can
Exactly.
sell it to someone else that now
someone.
becomes theirs. So no, look, this is all. It's kind of like when the internet was invented. We didn't have internet privacy laws until many years after the internet was invented.
Yeah.
So I expect there's going to be a lot of new rules and regulations. And of course, one of the areas that's popped up as an area of immediate concern is privacy protection. And so that's an area that's probably going to get looked at earliest.
So what do you mean by privacy protection?
Well, so for example, if I am in the metaverse with my avatar, what rights do my avatar have? And what rights do I have to protect of my identity or that avatar?
Okay.
That's just an example.
Okay.
We could talk
interesting.
about this one for hours.
I know. I have so many questions already as you're saying this. Okay,
You
next.
did answer another question about privacy there, so thank you for going into that.
Okay, so it looks like we answered the question about privacy, so we're not going to ask that.
We had a question, this came up a couple of times on a few different platforms, but how will AI, autonomous, and non-player characters play a role in the metaverse?
So how does AI, autonomous, and non-player characters play a role in the metaverse?
That is a very good question.
Very good,
And
by the way.
absolutely AI is going to be a major component of what we do in the metaverse. From everything from using AI to train autonomous vehicles to creating characters in the metaverse now when we think about there's the gaming metaverse, and already in gaming a lot of those characters are generated by AI. I mean, that's been going on for years. That's nothing new. But when you start going into the business world of the metaverse, could AI create characters, create coworkers that you could practice against or work with? I've already seen some of the HR training solutions that use VR, where they're training managers on how to properly counsel workers and using avatars. Excuse me. So I think that AI is one of the fundamental technologies to enable the metaverse. And where we go from there, I think the sky is the limit. So
I love it. Okay.
yeah.
Question from Paul on YouTube. I'm an audio production alumni from Full Sail. How will audio be implemented into these technologies?
So this is a question from Paul on YouTube. He is an alumni from audio production, and he's asking how audio will be implemented in this technology.
Well,
or in the metaverse.
Yeah, well, first of all, you think about the metaverse being experiential, right, and sensory. And sound is one of the senses. And so spatial audio and realistic replica of audio is going to be a very important part of the metaverse experience. So I think it's going to play an important role. I believe it'll probably be more important in the virtual reality immersive environments. However, think about when we talked before about the metaverse being persistent, that it goes with you. I might have a device on my person that gives me audio information or audio cues, but it's accessing the internet or the metaverse. It's just that it's through an audible form. So I think there's a lot of opportunity areas there.
Different solutions that can be implemented here. Yes, I agree with you.
And already Bose has come out with their glasses that have audio built into them, and they got a spatial audio technology. Which is really compelling, because if you're going to use glasses as a visual device, and you want the spatial audio to be accurate, because if you're walking, using it for guidance, you want to be able to have
someone who's telling you like exactly the sound, and like, for example, if you're visiting a museum, for example, using those goggles and so on, I would guess that we need some audio where it's detecting your location and telling you about what you're looking at and so on.
Oh yeah, so I think you'll be very busy, Paul.
So Paul, you're going to be busy.
All right, we have a question from Jayla. Jayla says, I'm currently using Unreal Engine 5. My question is, are Unity and Unreal similar? And do you see that as similar experience on the job application side? If someone knows Unreal, can those skills transfer?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question. So this is from Jayla? Jayla. So this is from Jayla. She's currently using Unreal 5, Engine 5. And then she's asking how Unreal is different from Unity. And then how does that translate later on in job descriptions? Like, I guess, like, will they be looking for the same skills or not, and so on? Yes.
Yeah, no. So, both Unreal and Unity are very powerful development platforms.
Yes.
And they're just getting increasingly more powerful by the day. They both have a lot of common capabilities, but there are different advantages for each of the tool sets. So I'm not going to get into the advantages of one over the other right now, because once again, they both have strengths.
Yes.
But I would say for a student or someone who's looking to develop skills, I think having skills in both is very, very valuable.
I love your answer. Yes,
Yeah,
like we're not like don't specifically be good in one. Maybe learning both is good.
Well, I mean, let's look at it as my degree was in data processing, and I'm dating myself here, so I had to learn C and Lisp and Prolog and COBOL.
Oh my
right?
gosh,
I had to learn all those languages, and then when I got into the work environment, my company was like, hey, this is the language that we use for this project. And it's not dissimilar in the gaming industry or in the business industry. Some organizations say, hey, Unreal is our platform. We've already built all of our content on it. So they're going to be looking for folks with Unreal experience. Mm-hmm. Some companies have built their products on Unity, and that's what they're looking for. But I think, Unreal is predominantly based on C++. Unity is predominantly based on C#. So knowing both of those technologies can't hurt you.
Yeah, and I agree with you. For me, when I went through my degrees, I learned C++, C#, Java, and so on. But then once you understand the problem solving, if we apply the same reasoning here, once you know an engine like good and you understand what it does and you are able to problem solve, it's not going to be difficult for you to learn the different engine. It's really a matter of practicing. Yeah. And learning the different features of that engine, and it's going to be good. Like once you start implementing, it's the same thing that you're trying to do in one of those engines.
Sure, and as you move up in your career and go from being a developer maybe to a project manager to an engineering manager, it's almost going to be expected that you're going to have multiple technology skill sets, right?
Exactly, so that you can easily translate what you're doing. Okay.
But my favorite's Unity, so
Oh, really?
I'm a little biased, right?
No wonder why.
This is a long and multi-part question from Nelson.
Okay, can we
I'll break it down.
Break it down so that yes, it's a long and multi-part.
Yeah. So the first part just says the Metaverse offers an amazing opportunity for training, but it also still foreign to many people who design those training programs. So how are you seeing the adoption of these technologies when it comes to things like training, and how much pushback is there?
Okay.
Do you want me to ask this again?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it would just be the part, how are we seeing adoption of technologies for training, and is there pushback?
Okay, so how do we see the adoption of training in the Metaverse, and do we see any pushback?
So first of all, we go back to the Metaverse. We talked earlier about AR and VR and XR and web. The Metaverse is all of those.
Yes.
So the Metaverse isn't one technology. So I think if we look at the newer technologies like VR and XR that are starting to be used in training, we're starting now to really see massive adoption. When we started the chapter, the VR Air Association, most of our focus was on educating customers about the benefits, especially in the use of training. That was 4 years ago. Now I think it's more about how quickly can we build something and show ROI, right? Show return on investment. So there still is some resistance, and I think a lot of the resistance is just because people aren't completely comfortable and familiar with using 3D technology for training. Some folks still believe the only way to learn something is you got to do it with your hands.
Exactly, practice it with your hand.
But what's helping that is more and more evidence-based research coming out of universities, coming out of corporations where they're seeing significant, I'm talking in some case, 10x improvements in skills acquisition and knowledge retention through using some of these 3D technologies. Because let's face it, if we do something, the best way to learn something is to do it.
To practice it.
The second best way to do it is do it virtually, right? So.
But actually, even if like you're practicing virtually, it's not that like you're just like connecting with a mouse or like doing stuff with a mouse. So you are doing things virtually. You're practicing that whole thing virtually.
Well, and one example I would give that proves this is the flight training industry. So for many, many years, when flight simulators were first invented, pilots were like, no, you can never learn that way. Took about 20 years. All of a sudden, you can now use a full motion flight simulator and get certified to be a pilot without ever going in a real airplane. That's how realistic they've gotten. So the flight training industry adopted that. When VR came out, you got a lot of pushback. Oh, VR will never work. You can't use it. 10 years later, we're now starting to see the VR flight training simulators being more broadly adopted. They're not going to replace full motion simulators, but they definitely have value in certain skills.
Yeah, I know also another field is medical field.
Yes.
In the medical field also sometimes it's not easy to train surgeons to do, especially telesurgery, telesurgeries in general. But then they were very resistant to that. But then with the virtual reality trainings, then they're now able to do that, where they're training themselves to know how to do it and so on.
Yeah, and I think what's driving that is the technology's gotten better to make it much closer to realistic. It's still not completely realistic.
It's not exactly real,
but it's good enough.
But it's good enough. It's very close.
It's good enough, and the more you can practice something, the repetition, the better you get at it. So I think that's helping overcome a lot of the resistance.
I love that.
And then the next part of that question was, do you see an explosion in the need for 3D artists and animators, where the average corporate company would employ 3D artists?
Okay, so do we see an explosion for
3D
3D artists and animators?
Do we see an explosion? I definitely see an increased demand.
Yeah.
At the core of what's going on is you need content. The metaverse needs content, and who builds content? Creators.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is yes. There is a growing demand, as I mentioned, the next 10 to 15 years is really the metaverse construction period, and there's definitely significant demand for artists.
Great. We'll do 2 more questions here. Question from Quinn: what advice do you have for businesses to stay relevant as technology is developing specifically for AR and VR, and how should they prepare and plan for the future?
Okay, let's repeat that.
What advice do you have for businesses to stay relevant in AR, VR?
So what advice do we have for businesses that are in VR and AR?
To stay relevant?
To stay relevant.
I think for any normal business that's out there, getting involved and trying something. You want to stay relevant. You can watch from the sidelines, or you can get involved and try to find projects or problem areas where the technology could potentially be used to solve a problem. That's how you stay relevant, right? That's the most effective way.
I'm going to say this is the last question.
Was there a second? No, we still have time. No, we still have.
How should they prepare a plan for the future?
So how should they prepare a plan for the future, which is just get involved?
Get involved, but also I think it also helps to identify champions within the organization that the business challenges to stay up to speed on the latest technologies. Now, naturally, that would fall into the IT organization, but they're not always, IT folks are looking at sort of the mechanics of how to keep things running. But it might be, if you're a training organization, having one of the training leaders, be tasked with, hey, keep up to speed on what's going on with VR and AR technologies in the training industry. So that's also a way to plan and prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do one more normal question, then I'll hit you with a rapid fire.
A rapid fire, okay.
A question from Johnny is, can you touch more on the role of human digital twins in the metaverse?
Can we touch more on the human digital twin in the metaverse?
Can we touch more on the human digital twin in the metaverse? Well, I think one of the aspirational goals of many organizations is to create a digital twin of a specific human, not a general human, right? We can create digital twins of, here is generic, a digital replica of a human, but how valuable would it be to have a digital twin of me with my DNA, with all of my characteristics, that we can run simulations on the side and say, hey, what if we reduce the diet, the food intake?
How is that?
Well, how much weight could I lose in 2 weeks?
Or if I work out this thing, this type of weight, how much weight I can...
But if you look at it in specific industries like fighter pilots, like sports athletes, the ability to create a digital replica of that athlete is tremendously valuable in terms of being able to find optimal performance. And there's a whole bunch of companies that are specializing, human performance specialists. They are really focused on trying to find ways to create those accurate digital twins of humans, of specific humans. Right now, you can collect a lot of that.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the military is putting lots of money into research. Now, the visualization part of that digital twin is only part of it, right?
Yeah, you're not really going to be interested in, but it's more the data that you're going to be collecting to improve the performance of the person. Yeah.
So I think that's definitely there's a lot of companies working on that. I expect to we'll start seeing some real progress here in the next few years.
I love this. Okay.
All right, we're going to rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
As a current student, what software and skills should I be focusing on if I'm hoping for a career in AR/VR?
Okay, as a current student, and it was one of the questions that I was leaving to the end, but now we have. Okay. So, as a current student, what kind of skills or software I should be learning to be able to work in the AR or VR industry?
Okay, let's take that question because that's a broad answer here. And there's a couple things we want to talk about. So first of all,
my question was, what are some of the skills that companies will be looking at, looking to have or looking for, so that way us as universities we can know what your need is and reverse engineer that into programs where I can prepare my students for that industry. And I know here in Orlando, we're talking about the hub of augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, gaming, simulation, modeling, all of it.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what do you guys need so that I can take it and then either if we have programs that we already offer that work on those skills, good. Otherwise, we can create those skills.
So there's two audiences for this question. There's one for the developer, the student, and then there's one response for the university. So let me start with the simplest answer is we need more Unity developers.
Yes, if you're going to be coming here to Orlando,
we need more Unity.
If you're going to be part of the digital twin, we need Unity developers.
Yeah, but look, for the next 10 to 15 years, companies are going to be focused on building the metaverse. So there's already a tremendous demand for all types of developers: C++, C#, Unity, Unreal, Python, Java. So if you're a developer, I would just say figure out what area you want to work in and figure out what are the languages that particular company or industry is looking for. But I think across the board, there's a tremendous demand for creators. And when I say creators, I mean both developers, engineers, technical artists, project managers, designers, the whole ecosystem of folks. Now, what are companies looking for? Now, I know when we look for people to come on board, we're looking for, do they have the technical skills that we need at that moment?
Yes.
Right? Computer languages change and people learn things.
Yeah, and that's normal.
That's normal, right? But also we're looking at, does this individual have experience working as part of a team?
Okay.
Do they know how to collaborate with people that might not think the same way that they do? Or if they're a developer, can they work with artists? Have they proven that they can meet deadlines? So these are the things that companies are looking for new graduates. Can I bring that new individual in and put them into a project team and they can be productive? I
love that you're saying that, because here at Full Sail, for example, in the gaming programs, we try to make sure that we have designers work with developers, with artists, with product producers. Yep. So it's like we're trying to create what the industry is looking for here, so that during their capstone, they learn how to talk to each other. They all use different languages, language of an artist is different from the developer, different from designer. So teaching them how to communicate and build together and work together.
And that's critical, especially now as a lot of companies have allowed workers to work remotely. They're not going to be necessarily working in a physical environment where they're getting a lot of coaching and guidance over the shoulder. They might just be in a virtual, Zoom meetings and things like that. Mm-hmm. So the more practice they've had before they come into the workforce doing that, I think the more attractive they're going to become, right? So I think the ability to work as part of a team. I think internships are very, very valuable. I think when organizations look for new staff and they're looking for new graduates, first thing they look at is how many internships and what types of internships has this individual done.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they've already got experience in a work environment. So that's I don't think it's always a requirement, but it definitely is something that,
it helps you
guys. It helps, right?
Okay.
The other thing, and this is hard to quantify, but people that can solve problems.
Problem solving. And that's how I talk, like the thing that kind of unifies everything emerging tech is problem solving for me here at Full Sail. Yeah.
And the thing is, there are certain sciences or studies that are very theoretical, which you do a lot of reading and you do a lot of thinking, and there's some that you actually
Hands-on,
get your
applied.
hands on. And that's what a lot of our industry is. I mean, you build projects and you try to create some code and it crashes, it doesn't work, the robot doesn't do what you want to do. How do you break that problem down and figure out a way to solve it? That is tremendously valuable.
I love this.
Yeah.
Okay, we have time for how many?
Two
Two
very
questions.
quick
Two
ones.
more questions.
What's the most unique use case or example that you've seen for the metaverse or the digital twin?
What is one of the most unique use case that you've seen in the metaverse or the digital twin?
Or the digital twin? Okay. One of the ones that I've seen and participated on the sideline in was the Mars rover. When NASA used Unity to create a digital twin of the Mars rover, they brought all the engineering data, they created a virtual Mars environment, and they ran the rover through all of its programming, all of the different scenarios to test it. And when the rover landed on Mars and all the I was able to go back and talk to the team that did that work and say, here's how and they were so proud of it. They were so proud to show us, hey, here's how we used your product to actually build this thing.
Amazing.
That was pretty impressive.
I love that. Okay, last question.
What job area in simulation has the highest demand right now?
What job areas in the simulation have the highest demand right now?
I would say software engineers.
Software engineering.
I would say right now software engineers across the board are in high demand.
Thank you. Well, we're already over time. So thank you today for joining us, John.
Yeah.
That was a real pleasure having you here with us. Thank you all for joining us through LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. I hope you enjoyed today's session about Unity, mixed reality, and the metaverse.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for those who asked questions we couldn't get to your questions, but feel free to send your questions, and we'll try to get you the answers you need. Stay tuned. We have another episode of Tech Tuesday in August. That's going to be August 23rd, and it's going to be about the Unreal Engine 5 and Epic Games. So today we did Unity. Next one, Epic Games and Unreal. This is Dr. Haifa Maamar, Director of Emerging Technologies from Full Sail University. Thank you all for coming today.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day, everyone.